Today's book takes us on a journey to Scotland. And Scotland shares a part of an island with England. So if you can picture where England's located, Scotland is north of England. So it's the northern part of that island. And Katie, right here, is going to show us around. Also, she's bringing along her brother Jack and her grandma. And you know who else we're going to meet? Have you heard of the Loch Ness Monster? Yeah, you're going to meet the Loch Ness Monster. So let's kind of review what Loch Ness means. Loch is the word that they use in Scotland for lake. So Loch is a lake, and Ness is the name of the lake. So the Loch Ness is the lake Ness and the monster. So it's the monster that lives in the lake named Ness. But because the monster lives in the lake named Ness, its nickname has become Nessie. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a background story. And are you ready to start the book? Let's see what they have to say. It starts off right here. There's a picture. Katie and her brother and her grandma, and they're right next to the lake. So Katie was on holiday in Scotland with her grandma and her brother Jack. Now on holiday is another word they used to say if they were on vacation. So they were on vacation in Scotland with her grandma and her brother Jack. Today they were visiting Loch Ness. Do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster? Asked Katie. There's no such thing as monsters, laughed Jack. He didn't notice the bubbles in the water. See the bubbles? A large green creature appeared and said, "No such thing as monsters? Of course there are." "Are you the Loch Ness Monster?" asked Jack. "Yes, call me Nessie," she laughed. "Now, what brings you to Scotland?" "We're on holiday," said Katie. And here's the rest of the back. See, this is going to be kind of hard. Some of the pictures are, there we go. But I need to fold it in order to see what I'm reading, okay? "You lucky things," sighed Nessie. "I'd love to go on holiday." "You could come with us," suggested Katie. "Where would you like to go?" "Ooh, the Edinburgh Festival," cried Nessie, "to see a show." Invited Loch Ness Monster with them. So fortunately, says Grandma was the sort of grandma who liked an adventure, so they set off at once. Nessie gave everyone a ride through lochs and rivers to the nearest station. When they reached the station, so we're up here, the train station. When they reached the station, the train driver was very excited. "What an honor to meet you," he said to Nessie. But Nessie was too big to get on the train. "Oh dear," she said. "How will we get to Edinburgh?" "Don't worry," said the station manager. "We've got an old goods train, which would be perfect. We'll call it the Nessie Express." And said the train driver, "All aboard." So she's too big to get inside of the train. So they brought in another type of train where she's going to sit on top of it. And here's a big picture. Soon they were on their way, rattling past mountains and forests. It was a beautiful journey. You see how Nessie's sitting on top of the one train car instead of inside it? Yeah. At last, the train came to the big city called Glasgow. The train driver told them about a wonderful museum, and it sounded perfect for a small trip, so they decided to go and look around. Nessie was very pleased to find the bones of a long-lost relative inside. You see the dinosaur? And they're saying that that was one of her relatives. Funny. Afterwards, they went here. They relaxed in Kelvin Grove Park, where Nessie paddled in the river until it was time to get back on the train. Next, the train, now it's nighttime, and the train took them all the way to Edinburgh. By the time they arrived, it was getting dark. Let's find somewhere to spend the night, said Grandma. And up here is the Edinburgh Castle. It's big. We found a grand hotel, but Nessie said she'd prefer to stay outside. You see her sleeping outside? I always sleep under the stars, she said. From their hotel window, Katie and Jack saw her curled up in a leafy park. Good night, Nessie, they whispered. See you tomorrow. The next day, they walked down a street called the Royal Mile. Look, it's Nessie, people shouted. Are you performing at the festival? Go on, Nessie, said Katie. Why don't you put on a show tonight? Oh, all right, just this once, said Nessie. Hooray! Cheered the crowd. So she is a favorite attraction at this festival. Then they set off to explore the city until it was time for the show. First, they came to a grand royal residence called Holyrood Palace. How lovely, said Nessie. Imagine living here. But there's nowhere for you to swim, said Katie. That's true, said Nessie. A loch is better than a palace. Do you agree that a lake is better than that palace? That palace is big. Next, they found a statue with a small dog called Greyfriars Bobby. It says he was a very faithful pet, said Jack, reading the sign. I bet you would be a faithful pet, Katie said to Nessie. I would indeed, smiled Nessie, but where would you keep me? In the bath, said Katie, laughing. Come on, let's go outside. Oh, let's go to the castle. They are outside. They're going to go to the castle next. All right. Here's a big photo. Let me show it to you before I... All right, so they're at the castle. It says, at last, they reached the top of the hill where the castle stood. The other visitors were very excited to see Nessie. There's going to be a Nessie show tonight, said Katie. Don't forget to come along. Everybody's saying hi. Suddenly, there was a loud boom. Goodness me, what was that? Cried Nessie. The 1 o'clock gun, said a guardsman. We fire it every day except Sundays, so sailors at sea know what time it is. So they fired off this big boom and it scared Nessie. And Grandma goes, well, I think it's time for lunch. And she started to unpack a picnic. She had even brought some Scottish shortbread as a special treat. My favorite, gasped Nessie. They sat beside a piper and listened to the bagpipes while they ate. See the guy playing the bagpipes? And here's their picnic. Okay. On their way down from the castle, Nessie saw a big art gallery. I wonder if they have any pictures of me, she asked, sticking her nose through the door. But Katie couldn't see any. You'll be needing the portrait gallery, said a warder. So she sticks her head through. That's kind of funny. Could you imagine being inside and Nessie sticks her head in? Whew, that'd scare you. But there were no pictures of Nessie in the portrait gallery either. Never mind, Nessie, said Katie. It's nearly time for the show. Oh, yes, said Nessie. How exciting. And they go outside. So outside, the crowds were already gathering. Nessie taught Katie and Jack some Scottish dances. Soon they were ready for their performance. I'm a bit nervous, said Nessie. Don't worry, it'll be wonderful, said Katie. And it was wonderful. Wearing splendid tartan kilts, they performed in an open-air theater. Nessie opened the show with some Highland games. She even tossed a caber while everyone clapped and cheered. It's either a caber or a caber. But see this big piece of wood? She grabbed it and she tossed it in the air. And because she was big and strong, everyone clapped and cheered. For the grand finale, here's the picture. So for the grand finale, Nessie sang old Scottish songs while Katie, Jack, and Grandma danced the Highland Fling. Everyone said it was the best show at the whole entire festival, at the Edinburgh Festival. Dancing and singing, and there's some bagpipers and everyone that's watching. Afterward, Katie said, "I've got a surprise for you, Nessie." It was a portrait that she had drawn all by herself. "I am going to give it to the portrait gallery," she said. "Then they'll have a picture of you for everyone to see." "It's perfect," said Nessie. "Thank you, Katie." Grandma said it was getting late and they needed to catch their train home. "It's time for us to get you back to your lock," she said. They set off on the Nessie Express. They went over a huge bridge and trundled off through the night to the end of the line where they said goodbye to the train driver. By the time they reached the lake, do this. Here's the big picture. Okay. On this page, by the time they reached the Loch Ness, it was very late. The scent of heather filled the air, and the moon hung low in the sky. "Do you believe in monsters now?" asked Nessie. "Definitely," laughed Jack. "And we always will," said Katie. "Goodbye, Nessie." And they all waved as Nessie slipped into the dark waters of the loch and swam out of sight. And that was Katie and Jack's trip to Scotland with Nessie. That was so much fun. So thanks for taking the trip to Scotland with me today. I am Cassie, and our adventure next week stays here in the US, but guess what? We are going to Hawaii. Yes, so we will see you there next week.